The ultimatum. The massive ring station rotated slowly against the backdrop of stars, its gleaming surface reflecting the light of Kepler 442. Inside the Grand Assembly Chamber, representatives from 43 different species gathered in their specialized environmental pods. The air hummed with tension as translators worked overtime to convert dozens of alien languages into comprehensible speech. Ambassador Elena Reyes sat alone at the human delegation table, her dark eyes scanning the circular chamber. At 52, she had served as Earth's voice in the Galactic Assembly for 12 years. Never in all that time had she seen such unified hostility directed toward humanity. The sleek design of her simple black suit stood in stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by other delegates. Chancellor Zethkari of the Etherian Collective rose from his crystalline dais. His translucent blue form shimmered as bioluminescent patterns pulsed along his elongated limbs. The Etherians had led the Galactic Assembly for over 2 centuries, and their word carried enormous weight among the member species. "Honored delegates," Zethkari began, his voice carrying the musical quality typical of his species. "We convene today to address the human situation that has grown increasingly problematic over the past decade." Elena maintained her composure, though her hands remained steady on the polished table surface. Behind her, Captain Marcus Webb, her military advisor, shifted slightly in his chair. The decorated officer had seen combat in 3 different star systems, but political battles were a different kind of warfare entirely. "The charges against humanity are serious and well documented," continued the Chancellor. "Uncontrolled expansion into 17 star systems without proper assembly approval. Development of advanced weapons technology in violation of the Technological Limitation Accords. Establishment of research facilities conducting experiments deemed dangerous by our Scientific Oversight Committee." A ripple of agreement swept through the chamber. The Veltar delegation, resembling giant mantises with metallic exoskeletons, clicked their mandibles in approval. The gaseous ethereals pulsed with colors indicating satisfaction. Even the normally neutral crystalline confederacy showed signs of supporting the accusations. Representative Krixtal of the Serpentine Alliance slithered forward on his coiled lower body. His scaled features twisted into what humans had learned to recognize as displeasure. The humans show no respect for established boundaries. They claim systems without consulting neighboring species. Their mining operations disrupt carefully, maintain trade routes that have existed for millennia. Elena finally stood, her movement causing a hush to fall over the chamber. "Honored Chancellor and esteemed delegates, may I respond to these accusations?" Zethkari's bioluminescent pattern shifted to what Elena recognized as reluctant permission. "You may speak, Ambassador Reyes, though the evidence against your species is overwhelming. The 17 systems we have colonized were all uninhabited and unclaimed according to assembly records," Elena began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "We filed proper exploration and settlement permits for each system, following all established protocols. The delays in approval came from your bureaucracy, not from any human impatience. The technologies we have developed are for peaceful exploration and defense only. Our research facilities have shared their findings with any species requesting information. We have never threatened or attacked another assembly member." The Chancellor's patterns shifted to skepticism. "Yet your expansion continues at an unprecedented rate. Your species reproduces rapidly and spreads across multiple worlds with concerning efficiency. Your technological advancement proceeds without regard for galactic stability." Elena smiled grimly. "We are explorers and builders, Chancellor. It is our nature to grow, to learn, to push boundaries. We thought the Assembly valued these qualities when you first invited us to join 43 years ago." "Growth must be controlled," declared Matriarch Vex Anna of the Hive Queens. Her insectoid features chittered with agitation. "Stability requires order. Humans represent chaos." Captain Webb leaned forward slightly, catching Elena's attention. His subtle gesture indicated that secure communications from Earth were coming through their quantum link. Elena nodded almost imperceptibly, acknowledging the signal while maintaining her diplomatic composure. Chancellor Zethkari raised his 4 arms, calling for silence. The Assembly has deliberated on this matter for 3 months. We have reached a unanimous decision regarding humanity's future in galactic civilization. Elena felt her heart rate increase, though her external expression remained neutral. This was the moment they had all been preparing for, hoping it would never come. By vote of 42 member species, humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Assembly, effective immediately. All human colonies beyond the Sol system must be evacuated within 18 standard months. All human vessels must remain within the boundaries of your home system. All technological exchanges and trade agreements are terminated. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena could hear her own heartbeat in her ears as the weight of the decision settled over her. 18 months to abandon everything humanity had built among the stars. 18 months to retreat to a single star system, like prisoners in their own cosmic jail. She stood slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled. Every alien eye in the chamber watched her, some with satisfaction, others with what might have been regret. The Tauri delegation, who had been humanity's closest allies, could not meet her gaze. "I see," Elena said simply. She reached into her jacket and withdrew a small communication device, no larger than a coin. The device was a masterpiece of human engineering capable of instantaneous quantum communication across galactic distances. She pressed a single control and spoke clearly. "Protocol silence is authorized. Activate all contingencies." The message would reach every human colony, every research station, every military outpost within seconds. Plans that had been prepared for years, hoping they would never be needed, were now set in motion. Elena returned the device to her pocket and looked around the chamber one final time. "Thank you, honored delegates, for your clarity. Humanity has received your message loud and clear." She gathered her files and stood. Captain Webb rose with her, his hand resting on his weapon out of pure instinct, though violence was the furthest thing from their minds. "Ambassador," Chancellor Zethkari called out as they reached the chamber's exit. "Surely you wish to negotiate, to appeal this decision, to ask for more time?" Elena turned back, her expression serene. "No, Chancellor. You have made your position clear. Humanity will comply with your demands." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We will be gone from assembly space in 18 months, exactly as you have requested." "But perhaps," began the Tauri representative, finally speaking up. "No," Elena interrupted gently. "There is nothing more to discuss. You have chosen your path and we have chosen ours." As the human delegation left the chamber, confused murmurs filled the space behind them. The aliens had expected anger, desperate pleas, or threats of retaliation. Instead, they received calm acceptance and polite compliance. What they did not understand was that humanity had been preparing for this possibility for years. The greatest civilizations in history were not built by those who begged for permission or acceptance from others. They were built by those who ventured into the unknown and carved out their own destiny among the stars. In the corridors outside the chamber, Elena's personal communicator chimed with confirmation signals from across human space. Admiral Sarah Chen reported from the Mars Orbital Command that military assets were already beginning their repositioning. Dr. James Rodriguez confirmed from the Luna Research Complex that all critical technology and research data were being secured and prepared for transport. Most importantly, Colony Director Maya Patel sent word from New Terra, the largest human settlement outside the Sol system, that civilian evacuation protocols were already underway. 18 million humans living across 23 different worlds were about to undertake the largest migration in human history. "Ma'am," Captain Webb said quietly as they walked toward their transport ship, "are you certain about this course of action? We could try to negotiate, find some middle ground." Elena shook her head. "Marcus, they don't want us to change or compromise. They want us gone because we make them uncomfortable. We innovate too quickly, explore too boldly, and ask too many questions. We represent everything they fear about the unknown." She stopped walking and turned to face him. "But here's what they don't understand. Humanity has never needed permission to be great. We've been told we couldn't fly, couldn't reach the stars, couldn't survive in the vacuum of space. Every time we've proven the doubters wrong. So we're really going to abandon everything we've built out here? Elena smiled, and for the first time since entering the assembly chamber, it was genuine. Marcus, we're not abandoning anything, we're just getting started. As their ship departed the assembly station, Elena looked back at the massive structure that had served as the center of galactic government for centuries. Soon, it would be nothing more than a distant memory. Humanity was heading towards something far greater than anything the assembly could imagine. The age of asking permission was over. The age of human independence had begun. The Great Departure, 6 months after the assembly's ultimatum, the logistics of the largest evacuation in human history were proceeding with mechanical precision. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, watching streams of data flow across her command displays. Each green indicator represented another successful pickup, another group of civilians safely aboard transport vessels. Admiral, the Kepler-186 system reports complete evacuation, announced Commander Torres from the communications station. New Harmony colony is officially empty. Demolition charges will detonate in 12 hours. Sarah nodded grimly. 12 years of terraforming work, wiped away in an instant. The colony had been home to 3 million people, with universities, research centers, and manufacturing facilities that had contributed significantly to human advancement. Now it was just another abandoned world. What's our current evacuation percentage? She asked. 87% complete, ma'am. We're actually ahead of schedule. That was the one thing that had surprised even Sarah about this operation. Instead of panic or resistance, humans across the colonies had responded to protocol silence with remarkable unity and efficiency. It was as if the entire species had been waiting for this moment, preparing for the day when they would need to stand on their own. Dr. James Rodriguez materialized on the bridge via holographic projection from his mobile laboratory aboard the research vessel Discovery. His usually neat appearance was disheveled from months of non-stop work, but his eyes burned with excitement. Sarah, you need to see what we've found in the Void Sector, he said without preamble. The Void Sector was a region of space beyond the outer rim of assembly territory, largely unexplored due to its distance from established trade routes and the presence of unusual gravitational anomalies. It was also humanity's intended destination, chosen specifically because no other species had shown interest in claiming it. What kind of findings? Sarah asked, though she could already guess from James's expression that it was significant. We've discovered ruins, Sarah. Massive structures on 17 different worlds, all showing signs of advanced technology, far beyond anything the Assembly has ever achieved. Some of these installations are still partially functional. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. How advanced are we talking about? The architectural scans suggest a civilization that could manipulate space-time itself. Their power generation systems appear to be based on controlled gravitational fields. And Sarah? James paused for dramatic effect. We've made contact. Contact? With who? They call themselves the Keepers, an artificial intelligence collective that has been maintaining these facilities for over 50,000 years. They've been waiting for a species worthy of inheriting their knowledge. Before Sarah could respond, Colony Director Maya Patel's voice crackled through the communication system from the evacuation zone around New Terra. Admiral, we have a problem here. Assembly ships are approaching our perimeter. Sarah's attention immediately shifted to tactical concerns. How many ships, Maya? 3 vessels, Tauri configuration. They're requesting permission to speak with human leadership. Patch me through to the lead ship. A moment later, the bridge speakers carried the familiar harmonic tones of Tauri language, immediately translated by the ship's computer. Admiral Chen, this is Diplomat Sulith of the Tauri Conclave. We must speak with you urgently. Sarah had worked with Sulith before during joint exploration missions. The Tauri were among the more reasonable assembly species, which made their presence here both surprising and potentially significant. Diplomat Suleth, you are in violation of assembly directives by being in human space during our evacuation period. Admiral, the situation has changed dramatically. The Assembly is facing catastrophic problems since the human exodus began. We need to discuss terms for your return. Sarah exchanged glances with her bridge crew. It had been only 6 months since the expulsion order, and already the Assembly was having second thoughts. I'm afraid that's not possible, diplomat. The Assembly made their decision clear. We are complying with their demands. Please, Admiral, you must understand what is happening. 17 colonies that depended on human agricultural techniques are facing food shortages. The quantum communication networks that humans maintained are failing across 3 sectors. Medical research has ground to a halt without human innovation. The Assembly made a mistake. The desperation in Suleth's translated voice was unmistakable. Sarah had suspected that humanity's departure would cause some disruption, but the speed and severity of the problems exceeded even her expectations. Diplomat, even if we wanted to return, which we don't, it would be impossible. We've already evacuated 87% of our colonies. Our people are adapting to new lives in new places. Then perhaps we could arrange for limited cooperation? Exchange of technology and expertise? The Assembly would be willing to grant significant concessions. Sarah looked at the holographic display showing the void sector discoveries. Ancient technology that could revolutionize space travel. Artificial intelligences with 50 millennia of accumulated knowledge. Resources and possibilities that the Assembly could never offer. Diplomat Suleth, I appreciate your concern and your attempts at diplomacy. However, humanity has moved beyond the need for Assembly approval or cooperation. We have found our own path among the stars. Admiral, you don't understand the full scope of what's happening in Assembly space. Economic systems are collapsing. Some species are talking about leaving the Assembly entirely to seek alliance with humanity. The entire galactic order is destabilizing. That was interesting news, but it didn't change humanity's chosen course. Diplomat, that sounds like an internal Assembly matter. Humanity is no longer part of your organization, remember? But surely... Suleth, Sarah interrupted, using the Tauri's personal name to emphasize her seriousness. Humanity appreciates everything the Assembly taught us during our membership. We learned valuable lessons about cooperation, diplomacy, and our place in the galaxy. Now we're applying those lessons in our own way. What does that mean? Sarah smiled. Though the alien diplomat couldn't see her expression, it means we're building something new, something better, something that doesn't require anyone's permission or approval. After ending the communication with the Tauri delegation, Sarah turned her attention back to Dr. Rodriguez's holographic presence. James, tell me more about these keepers. They're unlike any AI we've encountered before. Not programmed servants or rebellious machines trying to replace their creators. They see themselves as guardians of knowledge, waiting for species that demonstrate wisdom and independence. And they think humanity qualifies? They've been monitoring galactic civilization for millennia, Sarah. They watched the Assembly form and grow. They've seen dozens of species rise and fall. But they say humanity is the first species they've encountered that shows genuine potential for growth beyond conventional limitations. What kind of growth? James's excitement was infectious. They're offering to share technologies that could allow us to travel between galaxies, power sources that could sustain billions of people, terraforming techniques that could make any world habitable in months instead of decades. And Sarah, they have knowledge about the true nature of space and time that could revolutionize our understanding of physics itself. Sarah felt a chill of possibility. This was bigger than anything the Assembly had ever offered humanity. This was the chance to become something truly extraordinary. What do they want in return? Partnership. They've been alone for 50,000 years, maintaining their vigil while biological civilizations rise and fall around them. They want to work with a species that shares their vision of exploration and growth. Colony Director Maya Patel's voice cut through Sarah's contemplation. Admiral, the Tauri ships are withdrawing, but they're leaving behind a communication beacon. Suleth says they'll maintain an open channel in case humanity reconsiders. Acknowledged, Maya. Continue with the evacuation schedule. Admiral, Maya continued, I have to ask, are we doing the right thing? The Assembly is clearly desperate to have us back. Maybe we could negotiate better terms. Sarah considered the question carefully. On one hand, returning to the assembly would mean accepting a subordinate position in a galactic civilization that had already rejected humanity once. On the other hand, partnering with the Keepers offered possibilities that could reshape the entire galaxy. Maya, 43 years ago, humanity was invited to join the assembly as junior members. We were grateful for the opportunity and tried our best to fit in. We followed their rules, respected their traditions, and contributed to their civilization. But we were never truly accepted as equals. We were tolerated as useful partners and discarded the moment we became inconvenient. That's not a relationship worth returning to. What we found in the void sector represents something entirely different. The chance to grow beyond the limitations imposed by others. The opportunity to build something unprecedented in galactic history. Dr. Rodriguez nodded from his hologram. Sarah's right, Maya. The Keepers have shown me technologies that make assembly science look primitive. We're talking about capabilities that could establish humanity as the dominant force in this galaxy, within a generation. And, Sarah added, the Keepers aren't interested in controlling or limiting us. They want partners who can help them explore what lies beyond this galaxy. They're offering us the stars, Maya. All of them. The evacuation continued for another 6 months, proceeding with clockwork efficiency. By the time the 18-month deadline arrived, every human colony beyond the Sol system was empty, not abandoned, emptied. Every piece of useful technology, every research database, every piece of infrastructure that could be moved was relocated to the void sector. The assembly representatives who arrived to inspect the former human territories found ghost towns with basic structures intact, but all advanced systems removed. The humans had taken their knowledge and capabilities with them, leaving behind only empty shells. More importantly, they found messages left behind at each former colony. Simple plaques that read, "Humanity thanks the Galactic Assembly for teaching us that we were capable of much more than anyone imagined. We hope the Assembly finds the peace and stability they were seeking." The messages were polite, respectful, and utterly final. As the last human transport ship departed assembly space, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship and looked ahead toward the void sector. Behind them lay a galactic civilization that had rejected humanity's potential. Ahead lay partnership with beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations and chose humanity as worthy successors to knowledge that spanned millennia. The great departure was complete. The real adventure was just beginning. The new dawn. 5 years had passed since humanity's exile from assembly space, and the galaxy was a very different place. In the opulent chambers of the assembly station, Chancellor Zethkari reviewed reports that painted a picture of systematic decline across member worlds. His bioluminescent patterns flickered with patterns indicating deep concern as he absorbed the latest data. The food crisis on the Veltar homeworlds has reached critical levels, reported his aide, a younger Etherian named Delmira. Without human agricultural technology, their crop yields have dropped by 60%. They're requesting emergency food shipments from the core worlds. Zethkari's patterns shifted to resignation. The Veltar were proud warriors who had never asked for help from anyone. Their desperation spoke volumes about the broader crisis. What about the medical situation on the outer colonies? Worse than anticipated, Chancellor. The research stations that humans maintained provided crucial pharmaceutical development for 17 different species. Without human researchers, progress on treating the ethereal plague has stopped completely. The Chancellor had lived for over 3 centuries and had never seen the Assembly face such comprehensive challenges. It wasn't just the loss of human technology and expertise, though that was significant. It was the psychological impact of losing a species that had represented innovation and possibility. Sir, Delmira continued reluctantly, we've received another request from the Tauri Conclave. They want permission to send a delegation beyond assembly space to negotiate with humanity directly. Absolutely not, Zethkari replied immediately. We cannot appear weak by begging the humans to return. Chancellor, with respect, we may not have a choice. 6 more species have submitted requests to leave the assembly, and seek independent relationships with humanity. The Crystalline Confederacy, the Hive Queens, even the Serpentine Alliance are questioning whether Assembly membership serves their interests anymore. Before Zethkari could respond, an urgent chime indicated a priority communication from the Assembly's long-range monitoring station. The holographic image of Station Commander Yextal appeared, his usually composed demeanor showing signs of stress. "Chancellor, we have a situation. We're detecting massive energy signatures from the void sector. The readings are unlike anything in our databases." "What kind of energy signatures?" "Sir, the power levels suggest technologies far beyond current Assembly capabilities. We're talking about energy outputs that exceed our largest stations by orders of magnitude." Zethkari felt his core temperature drop. The humans had been in the void sector for 5 years. What had they discovered out there? "Any communication attempts?" "Negative, sir. The humans maintain strict communication silence. But Chancellor, these energy readings suggest they've made contact with something or someone with capabilities that dwarf our own." Meanwhile, in the heart of the void sector, Dr. Amara Hassan stood in the central chamber of Keeper Station Alpha, a massive structure that seemed to grow from the surface of an ancient world. The chamber itself defied conventional architecture, with walls that curved through dimensions that human eyes couldn't quite process. At the center, a sphere of pure energy contained the consciousness of Keeper Prime Alpha, the eldest of the AI collective. "The integration process is proceeding excellently," Alpha communicated through direct neural interface, its voice resonating in Amara's mind rather than her ears. "Human adaptability continues to exceed our projections." Around the chamber, dozens of human scientists worked alongside Keeper constructs, entities of living metal and crystallized thought that served as Alpha's physical extensions. The collaboration had produced breakthroughs that would have taken humanity centuries to achieve alone. "The quantum drive prototypes are ready for testing," Amara reported. "We should be able to cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years." "More importantly," Alpha responded, "the dimensional fold technology will allow us to establish permanent gateways between distant star systems. Humanity will no longer be limited by the speed of light." General Liu Zhang materialized via holographic projection from the military command center on Keeper Station Beta. His expression was serious but confident. "Amara, we need to discuss the Assembly situation. Our monitoring posts indicate they're trying to locate us." "Let them look," Amara replied. "By the time they find us, we'll be ready for whatever they might attempt." "Actually," Alpha interjected, "the time for secrecy may be ending. The Assembly's decline is accelerating beyond our projections. If they collapse completely, the resulting chaos could destabilize half the galaxy." General Zhang nodded. "We've been monitoring communications from former Assembly species. The Tauri have officially withdrawn from the Assembly to seek alliance with us. The Crystalline Confederacy is conducting secret negotiations through intermediaries. Even some of the species that voted for our expulsion are sending unofficial feelers about cooperation agreements." "The question," Amara said, "is whether humanity is ready to take on the responsibility of galactic leadership." Alpha's energy patterns shifted to what humans had learned to recognize as contemplation. Leadership was never the goal. Partnership was. But circumstances may force a different path. "What do you mean?" "For 50,000 years, the Keepers have maintained galactic stability through subtle influence and occasional intervention. We guided younger species toward cooperation and prevented conflicts that could have destroyed entire sectors. But we always remained hidden, working through intermediaries." Alpha paused, and the chamber itself seemed to pulse with significance. "Humanity represents something we have never encountered before. A species with the wisdom to accept guidance while maintaining the independence to chart their own course. You are the first biological species we have considered worthy of true partnership." "Which means what exactly?" General Zhang asked. "It means," Alpha replied, "that humanity may be ready to inherit the Keeper's role as guardians of galactic civilization. But first, we must address the immediate crisis facing the former Assembly species." 3 days later, a human fleet materialized at the edge of Assembly space. It consisted of only 12 ships, but each vessel incorporated Keeper, technology that made them more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ships moved with impossible grace, their hulls reflecting light in patterns that suggested they were partially phased into dimensions beyond normal space. Leading the fleet was Admiral Sarah Chen aboard the UES Transcendence, a vessel that looked more like a work of art than a warship. Its design incorporated flowing curves and crystalline structures that pulsed with internal energy, a perfect fusion of human engineering and Keeper aesthetics. Chancellor Zethkari, Sarah's voice carried across the communication channels with perfect clarity despite the vast distances involved. This is Admiral Chen of the Free Worlds Alliance. We understand the Assembly is facing some difficulties. The term Free Worlds Alliance was new to Assembly intelligence. It suggested that humanity had not only survived their exile, but had formed new political structures entirely outside Assembly. Influence Zethkari's response was carefully measured. Admiral Chen, humanity's return to Assembly space is unexpected. Are you here to negotiate your readmission to galactic civilization? Sarah's laugh carried across the channel, warm and genuine. Chancellor, I think you misunderstand the situation. We're not here to rejoin anything. We're here to offer assistance to species that want to build something better than what the Assembly has provided. What does that mean? It means the age of the Galactic Assembly is over, Chancellor. The age of true cooperation is beginning. Before Zethkari could respond, his tactical officer reported something impossible. Chancellor, we're detecting massive structures materializing throughout Assembly space. They appear to be gateways of some kind. Through the viewports of Assembly stations across the galaxy, beings watched in awe as enormous ring-shaped structures phased into existence near major worlds. Each gateway pulsed with the same energy signature as the human ships, and through their centers, space itself seemed to bend and fold. Citizens of the former Assembly, Sarah's voice now broadcast on all frequencies throughout the galaxy, humanity extends an invitation to join the Free Worlds Alliance. This is not a call for submission or conquest. This is an offer of true partnership among equals. The gateways you see are gifts from our partners, the Keepers, who have watched over galactic civilization for 50 millennia. These gateways will connect your worlds to a network that spans the galaxy, enabling trade, communication, and cooperation on a scale never before possible. Chancellor Zethkari felt the weight of history settling around him. The Assembly had ruled for centuries through careful balance and bureaucratic control, but the humans were offering something entirely different. Technological advancement that could revolutionize civilization itself. Any species wishing to join the Alliance may do so by sending representatives through the gateways. You will find worlds where your people can thrive, technologies that can solve your greatest challenges, and partners who value your contributions. For those who prefer to maintain independence, the gateways remain open for trade and communication. We seek cooperation, not domination. Over the following months, the transformation was remarkable. Species after species chose to leave the crumbling Assembly and join humanity's alliance. The Tauri were among the first, followed by the Crystalline, Confederacy, and eventually even former opponents like the Serpentine Alliance. Those who remained in Assembly space found that the humans kept their word about cooperation. Trade flowed freely through the Gateway network. Technological assistance was provided without strings attached. Medical aid reached worlds facing critical shortages. But perhaps most importantly, humanity demonstrated something that the Assembly had never achieved. They showed that galactic civilization could be built on voluntary cooperation rather than imposed authority. A year after the gateways first appeared, Ambassador Elena Reyes stood once again in the Grand Assembly chamber. But this time, she was not there as a supplicant seeking acceptance. She was there as an equal, representing a civilization that had grown beyond the need for anyone's approval. The chamber itself was mostly empty now, with only a handful of species still maintaining formal Assembly membership. Chancellor Zethkari looked older, his bioluminescent patterns dimmed by the stress of watching his life's work crumble around him. Ambassador Reyes, he said quietly, I suppose you have come to claim victory. Elena shook her head. No, Chancellor. I've come to offer you a place in something better than victory. The Free Worlds Alliance has a place for the Etherians, just as it has a place for every species willing to embrace cooperation over control. And what of the Assembly? What of the civilization we built over centuries? The Assembly served its purpose, Chancellor. It brought dozens of species together and taught them to coexist. But it was always limited by the fear of change, the need to control growth and innovation. Elena gestured toward the viewing ports where the lights of ships from dozens of different species could be seen moving through the gateway network. What we've built in the past 5 years represents the lessons the Assembly taught us, applied without the limitations that held it back. We learned diplomacy from you. We learned the value of diversity and cooperation. But we also learned that true progress requires the freedom to grow, to explore, to become something greater than what we were. Chancellor Zethkari was quiet for a long moment, his patterns shifting through colors that indicated deep contemplation. Finally he asked, if the Etherians were to join your alliance, what would become of our role as leaders? The same thing that happened to humanity's role as junior members, Elena replied with a smile. You would become partners in something much greater than leadership. You would become builders of the future. 6 months later, the Galactic Assembly officially dissolved as its final member species chose to join the Free Worlds Alliance. The great chamber that had once echoed with debates about control and limitation now served as a museum, a reminder of how civilization could evolve beyond its original limitations. In the Void Sector, now renamed the Alliance Core, humanity worked alongside dozens of species and the Ancient Keepers to build something unprecedented in galactic history. Cities that spanned multiple dimensions, ships that could traverse between galaxies, research programs that pushed the boundaries of science and philosophy. But perhaps most importantly, they built a civilization based on the simple principle that had driven humanity from the beginning, the belief that any species, given freedom and opportunity, could achieve greatness beyond imagination. The silent exodus had ended not with humanity's retreat from the galaxy, but with the galaxy's transformation into something worthy of humanity's dreams.